In Turkey, hundreds of demonstrators burned US and Israeli flags in protest against the video. They marched on one of Istanbul's busiest shopping streets. Protests were seen in the Kenyan town of Mombasa too. Demonstrators there burnt US flags as well as an effigy of US President Barack Obama. Arsalan Iftikhar is an author and founder of the website themuslimguy.com. He joins us now live from Washington. Mr. Iftikhar, thank you for your time. The protests have well and truly spread now from the Middle East to Africa. Was the film just a tipping point to release a wave of anger against the United States?
Well, I think that's the million-dollar question, Elizabeth. I think, for most global observers, we are seeing a great deal of parallels between the recent attacks and the 2007 Danish cartoon controversy when a right-wing newspaper in Denmark published 12 incendiary cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, with a bomb-laden turban on his head and things like that. And so, sadly, 5 years later, we're starting to see some of the same copycat parallels. Granted, I think that it's much more multifaceted than that, but I think at the end of the day, that is really what we're seeing today.
The freedom of speech laws in Europe aren't the same as they are in the States. Why are we seeing attacks against European embassies?
Well, I think that's a very good point that you bring up, Elizabeth. I think, sadly, for a lot of people in the Middle East and the Muslim world, they tend to conflate the European Union and the United States together. And for those of us who are international legal experts, we know that there are certain laws in the European Union, for example, Holocaust denial, which are punishable criminal acts. And so I think that some people might ignorantly be seeing a double standard when it comes to Islam and Muslims, where it seems as though Islam and Muslims can be attacked with impunity and other demographic minority groups are protected. Of course, this is no excuse at all for the violent retribution that we've seen in places like Libya, Tunisia, Yemen, and Egypt. But I think it might offer a little bit of context into the ignorance involved here.
In America, where you are, can you see this becoming a real election issue? Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney's already criticized Obama for condemning the video before condemning the protests that it led to. Can Obama please the constituency? He feels he should be, who feel that he should be harder on the protesters and appease the Muslim world at the same time in this very crucial time leading up to an election.
Well, I think you bring up a good point. As many analysts here have observed, Mitt Romney has sort of been guilty of shooting first and aiming later. He came out with that statement not knowing that the embassy statement from Cairo that he was talking about actually took place before the killings at the Benghazi Consul General, not afterwards. And so, he was trying to score a few cheap political points by slapping a Romney 2012 bumper sticker on the tombstone of Ambassador Chris Stevens.
And if we go back to Egypt itself, if the Egyptian cops are behind this video, why haven't we seen strong protests against that community, do you think? And why is all of the anger directed at America and its allies?
That's a very good question, Elizabeth. I think what's important to keep in mind is that I bet you 95 to 99% of the people who are protesting have never actually seen the video. I, of course, have seen the video because I've had to. But again, I think that, you're dealing with a lot of transitional democracies here, countries that have, virtually no freedom of speech within the last 40, 50 years. And so they don't understand that, here in the United States and in the Western world, religions are attacked all the time. And what's important for American and Western audiences to know is that, out of the 57 majority Muslim nations on earth, there have really been only protests in about 6 or 7 different countries, which is about 10% of Muslim countries. The vast majority of the 1.57 billion Muslims around the world, although offended by the movie, obviously take to peaceful protests and don't condone and actually condemn the violence and the murder of Ambassador Chris Stevens.
Arsalan Iftikhar, thank you very much for your insights there.
My pleasure.
Long after the online